almost 4 years ago, I witnessed a situation that involved street harassment. A man was harassing a woman, pushing a stroller, and I went up to her and I asked her, I said, "Are you okay, sis?" Because she seemed like she wasn't, because he would not let her go. And if you know how these Harlem blocks were, he was following her for like almost 2 of these long blocks and would not accept her saying, "No, thank you, no, thank you." And so I intervened in that way, but I focused on her and I asked her, "Are you okay, sis?" And I use sis because she was black, and that's how I talk to black women. They're my sisters, right? So I shared this story on Twitter and asked people to do something more like that. So when you see someone in an uncomfortable situation, to not try to be a savior and confront the person that's doing the harassment, but rather ask the person if they're okay, ask them for the time, ask them for directions, ask them anything, or just compliment them, or anything where you can kind of put yourself in that space. Because one of the things about being harassed on the street or harassed at work or anywhere is that we feel alone. And we feel like there's people watching and they see this and they do nothing. And so we feel discouraged from speaking up, because if people can actually see it happen and do nothing, what happens when we try to fight it? So I began to encourage people to think of different ways that they could intervene in these situations, just by being present and just by acknowledging and just by letting the person know that they were not alone. And this movement took off and it made it around the world. And I've been very happy to see people of all races, genders, orientations, religions embracing this idea of this kind of bystander intervention that centers the victims. You OK Sis also existed and was created to center the experiences of black women with street harassment. Until then, much of the anti-street harassment work had centered white women as the primary victims and men of color as the primary predators. And I found that to be problematic, especially because I knew that as a black woman, I'd been experiencing this since I was a child. My first experience with street harassment was 28 years ago. My most recent one was yesterday. So for 28 years, I've been dealing with being a black woman in a public space who can't seem to navigate without being harassed in some way. And what we do know is that for black women, the experiences are often way more harsh. If you've read stories about women who have been killed for not giving their phone numbers, almost all of them are black women, right? Because they know that there's no real penalty for harming black women. Part of why we are the recipients of such harsh treatment is because no one values us as human beings. And they know that if they were to slice a white woman's throat, they'd be in jail for the rest of their lives. Whereas if they slice a black woman's throat, they could probably get a couple of years and go. So You OK Sis was created as a space for people to come to online, build community, and talk about their experiences. And if you were reading the hashtag and someone was sharing a story, you could jump in and say, "I hear you, I see you, and I hope that you're okay. Do you want to talk about it?" It's a way of allowing people to say, like the young lady said earlier, you know, it's hard when you feel like you can't talk. So we created this space. And what I want to say is, like, this work has been going on for so long, and it's not getting any better. I know we like to think it is, but it's not. In fact, I would say it's getting worse. I think that there is more pushback and rejection of women's autonomy. The more we speak, the more they push back. But that shouldn't stop us from speaking. We need to keep speaking up. We need to keep acting up. We need to keep acting out in these spaces. You do what makes you feel comfortable. You go along with what makes you feel safe. But just understand they're going to push back because there are people that just don't believe that women have the right to exist as free people. So we're all going to come together with all of these, End Street Harassment, Holla Back, You OK Sis, all of these movements to come together and fight this issue, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, because women have the right to walk down the street from point A to point B without having to say a single word to anyone for any reason. We do not have to accept compliments. We do not have to acknowledge people. We don't have to do anything. Like my mom said, I don't have to do nothing but stay black and die. That's real. So I want to thank you all for being out here and for showing your support for this particular movement. We're going to keep this going until it is safe for us to be in public spaces. It is safe for us to work. It is safe for us to run for political office. It is safe for us to do all the things that they try to intimidate us out of doing. Thank you all very much.